let me try and explain the monetary system as far as the United States goes, so everybody can understand money and not how it's used, more or less, but how it's molded and transferred in different ways. All right, as I'm explaining this, you can't look at money as something that's stagnant. You can't say money is green paper. You have to look at money as a form of energy. Okay? You have to understand that money is a form of energy. All right? Now, the problem we have here is we've got money and currency confused. Okay? Now, in order to really understand things that are going on now, you have to go back into the past. The deeper you go into the past, the more you can find out about the future. It is always that way. All right? I don't want to get too deep, so I'm not going to go all the way back. But what I will do is I will let you know some of the things that have been done throughout history in order for these bankers to come into power. Okay, years and years ago, a man by the name of Mayer Amschel Rothschild, Nathan Mayer Amschel Rothschild, he was the beginning of all this insane banking debt thing that goes on. This was before basically debt was the currency. Now, how this came about was during the time of Napoleon and during the time of war, what happened was these individuals snaked their way into the financial pockets of these tyrannical dictators or conquerors or whatever they were at the time. And what they do is, say they had control over Napoleon's money and over his funds. Napoleon actually got caught, lost, and was actually shoved out into exile. When Napoleon was in exile, what they were doing with his money, because it would just be like me, right? It would be like me. Oh, I'm exiled. Or let's just say I'm going to be in jail for the next 10 years. But I still have my funds. I want you to take care of my funds. No problem. I'll take care of your funds for you. But while I'm taking care of your funds, I want to make me some money. I'm not just going to hold on to your funds for you. Okay? I want to make me some money. So, while you're over there doing your thing in exile, I'm lending your money to him and asking this back for money. I'm lending your money to him. I'm lending your money to him. And I'm lending your money to them. And then, when it comes time for you to ask me how much money do you have because you want to check on your money, I fudge the books and make up all these nice little wonderful numbers for you. And you look and you go, oh, looks like everything's good. Meanwhile, there's nothing in there and your money is not in there. This has been happening throughout history. Throughout history, they have been playing everybody. The royal families, the nobilities, they've been playing everybody throughout history. When England won the war with, I think the Spanish, when the English won the war, they didn't actually tell them that they actually won the war. They actually sent someone there, and this someone actually told them that they lost. As soon as they found out that they lost, what are you thinking? Oh man, we lost the war. I guess they're going to come down here, pillage, break, and they're going to take and they're going to tear everything down. I guess I want to get rid of all my stuff and you want to try and liquidate your assets, right? So that's what they did. They did liquidate their assets. To who? To the lowly bankers who set this up, only to find out later, oh, we did win the war? Oh, we did? Well, can I have that? Yeah, sure you can have that back at like double the price. Or you can just, make me a member here on your, on your council. That's how it works. That's how it's worked throughout history. Okay? And now, what we have here is because that same individual, Mr. Nathan Amschel Rothschild, what he did was he had sons. Those sons came here to the United States and over time created the same form of debt. Right now in our country, we don't have money. We have debt. Okay? Before in between 1770 and say 1900s, before the Federal Reserve, our dollar, your dollar was the same amount it was in 1770 that it was in 1900. Your dollar was a dollar. There was no inflation. Okay? None. Then what happened was these individuals came along. And the reason is they actually snuck in and created an entity of their own, which in turn was nothing but debt. Because it goes like this. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. That basically meant that from that moment on, we would actually get our money from them. Now, what is the Federal Reserve? Everybody goes, oh, it's a federal bank. They print our money. It's federal. It's legal. No. The Federal Reserve is a big scam. First off, they are not federal. There is nothing federal about them. Second off, they have no reserves. They have no money. They have none. They have never even given us money. This is what they do. You have banks, right? Banks. All the banks in the United States, they're all tied in together. Okay? The bank goes, we need money. We're out of money. We don't have any money. Because the banks, they don't have any money. They don't. They ask the Federal Reserve to give them a loan. What do? We write up a bond. What is a bond? A bond is basically us just writing on a piece of paper an IOU. I'm just saying, hey, if you give me $10 billion, I'll pay you back. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure it's taken care of. And the Federal Reserve, in return, they go, oh, yeah, your bond, that's good. We'll take your word for it. And in return, we're going to print up some of our own bullshit IOUs called dollars. And so now the Federal Reserve, this building, this made-up building, they're just printing out money. Printing it. Now what they do is they give that money back to the banks. These are those bailouts that were going on. This is exactly what's going on, right? They give the money to the banks, right? But what do? They give us that money at interest, correct? The Federal Reserve says, I'll bail you out. Here's $10 billion. But what we want you to do is we want you to return this amount of money back to us. And we go, sure, absolutely, no problem. Correct? Right. Now, that money is then taken and put into a bank. Now, in 1913, they made up this little thing because the Federal Reserve, they knew that you weren't going to be able to pay the money back. So what they did was they made a tiny little rule for themselves so that they would be able to make money out of thin air off of you. Okay? Now, how does that go? It goes like this. I already told you, the Federal Reserve has no reserves. It has no money. Now, it printed this money for you. If I don't have any money, and I'm the only person that can print money, and I print up $10 billion to you, and I give it to you, and tell you, here's $10 million, give me that back with interest, how are you going to give me that back with interest if you can't even print money? Do you see why we're in debt? Straight off the beginning, it's a scam. Do you understand? Straight out of the beginning, it's a scam. There's absolutely no way for them to give back the money. It would be the equivalent of you coming to me and I'm being the financier for your village, and you're telling me your village has no money, you're out, and I'm going to tell you, here, I'll give you $8 billion for you to rebuild your village, and then somehow, some way, you're supposed to come up with that same amount of money plus interest for me? How is that even possible? It's virtually impossible. Okay? And now, to go even deeper into it, fractional reserve banking. This is what they do. The banks have actually given themselves permission to make 90%. All they need to do in their reserves is maintain 10%. That means if you, right, you go and get your money from them, right? We write the bond, we give it to them, they give us back the money, right? They give us the $10 billion. What do? We take it and put it in our bank. The only thing they have to do out of that $10 billion is put $1 billion in there for reserve. That's it. That's the law they made for them. And now they're allowed to lend out 90% of the money that was deposited into the bank. Do you understand? $10 billion goes into the bank. On the books, they only have to keep $1 billion as a reserve. And they're allowed to lend out they're allowed to lend out the other $9 billion. Now, you're probably thinking in your head, okay, we got $10 billion from the Federal Reserve. We took that and we put that into our banks. And then, out of that $10 billion, they took $9 billion and they're allowed to lend it out so that they can make some money. Wrong. They still have $10 billion. They actually made $9 billion out of thin air. The bank now actually has $19 billion. That's why we're in debt. That is inflation. That is what's going on right now. Do you understand? Your money is being devalued every single day. It's crawling down a hole. Your dollar, that used to be worth $1 between 1700 and the 1900s, is now worth 5 cents, if not nothing. It's not worth anything. Why do you think it is every single time banks tell you make up a direct deposit and we'll give you $75 or $100? Why do they tell you that? They tell you that because if you have a direct deposit check and it goes into the bank for $1,000, they're allowed to create 90% of that. They can create it out of thin air. Now, as soon as you put $1,000 in, they have $1,900. You understand? You go and put $100 in the bank now has $190 in the bank. 90% of that they can create out of thin air and loan out. Okay? That's like you coming to me, okay, giving me $1,000, and me just going, now I got $1,900. I can lend out $1,900. But what happens? The same thing is going on right now. That's what the banks have been doing to everyone, for your homes, for your cars, for all your wants and your needs. And that's why if any or all of us or the people who have tried, you can go on YouTube and take a look. There are people at Bank of America who have said, I'm coming in to close my account, and they would not let them in to close their account. There are people who have attempted to pay their mortgage with cash and were turned away. Hey, you got to go get a cashier's check. You got to go and do something with that. Why? Why? Because that's worthless. That's worthless. You have got to go and take that money and transform that money into digital ones and zeros into our system in order for us to respect it. Because why? That is garbage. It's nothing. That's why it's being pushed out. And it's being pushed out because there is no validity to it anymore. And it's not as controllable anymore. Think about the lack of control they get and what happens that the banks cannot get and what cannot happen if this happens. If, say, you work your job, then you get paid from your boss and you go to him and he gives you direct cash and then you take that and you spend that accordingly. What don't you do? You don't put it in the bank. You don't give it to the one person in this country that can literally take your money and take 90% or let's just say double your money out of thin air. That's what they do every single time. Why is it that every single thing we do now, you need some kind of checking account or something? You need to tie it in or something. You need some kind of direct deposit or something. Even when you're going to get, say, if you need food stamps or food stamp card or cash, or now even when you're getting your tax return. Every single one of those things is a form for them to make money. Every time you give them money, they're allowed to lend that money out. every single time. If every single week you come in there and you get $1,000 every single week, that means every single week you are making the bank $900. They're making money off of your debt. And the dollar is not money. The dollar is debt. It's debt. It is not backed by gold. It is not backed by silver. It is not, there is no legal tender. It is debt. A dollar is an IOU. It is telling you, I am in debt. I am indebted to you. That's what dollars are. That's why we've been stripped back and all of those things have been taken away from us and we've been given plastic cards. You can do what you want with a dollar and divvy what you want with a dollar. You can't do that with a plastic card. You may think you can, but you can't. There are some people out there that don't know that you can't go and buy ammo and guns on sale with your debit card. It'll decline, and you'll have to call your bank, but they're going to tell you, oh, there's some kind of BS policy and you can't do it. And it's basically because they dictate what it is you're buying. Not only that is, we're going down the road where they can dictate and see what we buy and cut our card off and take what it is they want when it is they want. All why? Because we're in debt and we don't understand the monetary system. It's kind of funny how everybody started talking about putting your money into a black-owned bank. I'll tell you something right now. A black-owned bank is just another bank with a black face on it. You put your money in there, they're still taking your money, expanding that by 90%, and loaning that out to lenders all over the place. And don't think for 1 second that your taxes go to education, roads, and schools. They do not. They do not go towards that. Your taxes are you paying these thugs back their interest for the money that our government has borrowed. When our government borrows that money, the corporation borrows that money, the corporate CEOs are like, well, we're not paying that. That's why they don't pay any taxes. The people are going to pay that. Those stupid people that don't know what's going on. They think it's going towards this and going towards that. No, they don't understand that all this money we're borrowing has to go back to them because we got to pay it back with interest. And that's what's going on. We're being raped. We're being extorted on a daily basis. Every single day, every single thing we do, we're being extorted. The money is not real. We're living in a fake world of fiat currency and just absolute fakeness. We're running around. Everybody's in a house that is not yours. It belongs to the bank. And they can change the rate on that whenever they want. And foreclose on you. That's not your house. That's not your car. No, it's not your car. There's a lien on that. And as soon as something goes wrong with your life, or, you and your boyfriend break up and you move out or something like that, or maybe you might lose your job, what happens? They come and they take it all back because none of it is yours. Like, none of it is yours. None of it. And we're faking jacks running around with debit and credit cards and all these credit cards. And what is credit cards? It's more of the fake money that they gave you on plastic for you to spend to remain in debt. If you have the problem is we've gotten so comfortable, which nobody's ever done in the history of time. People used to work for a house. They used to work all the way to the bones of the bones and build the house, and then that house would be theirs, and then that was it. They would have to work for a horse or a carriage, and they'd have to trade for it to do whatever. Then that was theirs. It was theirs. Unless they lost it, unless they bartered it again, that was theirs for the rest of their life. And that was it. I don't know how it is. We just got into just being like, oh, I can't afford that car at all, but I know I'll look good in it. So I'm going to go talk to these people and see if I can just, be indebted to this car. Oh, I know I can't afford that house, but, that's the American dream right there. And I really want to be part of the American dream. So let me go and finance and get finance this house and see how much, and for what? So you can be in debt? Does that even make any sense? And you're not even going to own the house? For what? And we've been doing this for God knows how long, and we're just so used to keeping up with these Joneses that we're done. That's why after 2008 and the crash and everything, I remember the president coming back out and going, yeah, you guys need to spend money and get back out there in the economy, spend money and spend. Yeah, that's it. That's all they want us to do, is spend money. That's what keeps the economy going. It's us spending money. But it's not us actually spending money. It's us digging ourselves into debt. Because if we stop spending money and stop going into debt, they stop making money. They lose control. Do you understand? What happens if we stop putting money in the bank? What happens if we stop taking out car loans? Stop taking out student loans? Stop taking out house loans and mortgages? What happens? They can't do no fractional reserving anymore. We just stop giving them money. We stop giving them the power to make money. That's where they're making it at. And then after they make their money off of the invisible money, they give it to you and then charge you interest on that. They don't even have it. They gave you nothing and charged you interest on it. Every now and then I look around and go, man, you really don't. And then I go, yeah, but you ain't indebted to nobody. There's no debt collector ever called you. I've never had to not answer my phone because a debt collector called me because I owed something, because I borrowed something that I could not pay back. No car note. No, none of that. No credit card. No. You need a credit card. Credit's good. Credit's good for this, and credit's good for that, and credit's good for this. Is it really a good credit score, or is it really a good debt score? Why do they make that sound so good when your credit score just says to me how much deeper you can go in debt? That just means he's only worth $500 worth of debt. That's it. His debt hole is $500. He only makes enough, or his lifestyle is only enough for him to dig out of a $500 hole. But that guy's debt hole is pretty deep. He's got other things we can take. He's got a house. He's got a boat. He's actually got a car, a lot of other things that we actually own too. But we will take those things for any given reason if for any reason he can't pay us back on this right here. That's how that works. It's not credit. It's not your credit score. It's your debt score. It's how much debt can I go in? When you go and finance a car, it's not like credit. It's not like, oh, I just got me a car. I just got something. You didn't get anything. The only thing you do when you drive off the thing is like, I got a new car. Yeah, I got deeper into debt. That's the only thing that just happened. And I don't understand why we're constantly seeing money, 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 and nobody's seeing debt, debt, debt. So when you're looking at money, you're looking at these banking systems, understand the way the monetary system works. I vividly remember when this lady asked me if I wanted to open an account, and I looked her in the eyes and I said, no. And she said, why not? And I said, I understand the monetary system. And she said, okay. And she left it at that. She didn't really push. She didn't really push anymore. She didn't push anymore. Now, the banking system has been made convenient so that we're comfortable using the banking system. But the idea is to understand the banking system so that you can understand the entire system and the way it works. Do not fool yourself about money. Don't fool yourself about actually having money. You're in debt. Almost every person you're around is in debt, especially if they borrow things. If you borrow and finance things all over the place, you're building, it's almost the equivalent of, you can sit in a pool that's 2 feet, or you can hang on a really, really nice pool that's 18 or 20 feet deep. But let me tell you something right now. When the holes in your boat start going, and your boat gets ready to sink, you're going to see really, really deep. Really, really deep. It's going to be hard to swim up out of that. A person in like 2 feet, you might not even sink. Then, step to the side, you can step right on out of that. But that's the idea. That's the idea. And that's why they made up all kinds of different things like bankruptcies and chapter this and chapter this and chapter that. Why do you think they made those up? They made those up because they realized that you would do exactly what it is you did, and they would still need a way to actually make money off of that and get you back into the system. And that's what they do. They'll put you into bankruptcy, wipe your thing, dude. They'll do all this other stuff in the computer with all these ones and these zeros and all this other stuff. And then they'll bring you right back on again. And you'll start doing the same thing all over again. They'll start you all over again, start your debt process off. It's like, listen, I understand. We made a lot of money off you in the last couple of years. Clear that off. We're going to start you up again. You just got to look at the system with different eyes. Look at the system with different eyes, because they're lying to you. Money is not money. Gold and silver is money, but money is not money. Your dollar and your $20, it's nothing. It's garbage. It's garbage. It's nothing. And if you think your money's worth so much, take that money, your $1,000 or whatever it is, take that cash down to the bank and try and pay your mortgage. I guarantee you they're going to send you home. But you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage that day. Nope. It's not going to happen. You got to pay attention to it. Same thing with the food stamps and all that. There is absolutely no difference in a food stamp card with money on there for food or cash and a Visa credit card, platinum, or gold card. There's no difference. You think there is. There's no difference. They're both pieces of plastic with ones and zeros on them. The computer algorithm, it reads ones and zeros. Just like the Matrix. Ones and zeros. And the only thing is, they give you a card and they go up, your ones and zeros are just to be used for food. That's all. That's how they switch it around. That's all they do in the computer. That's all. And you're like, oh, food stamps and all this and all that. They don't come from anywhere. It's not like it's thin air. It comes out of thin air. You understand? It comes out of thin air. That's what they do every single time. Alright? And you best believe every single time they're doing it, they're putting that money into an institution. They will be allowed to loan that money out. Okay? Every single time. Every single time. What I told you happens every single time. If they go and they give that bank over there $10 billion, that bank makes $9 billion, and you come into that bank and you go, hey, I want $5 billion. They give you $5 billion and you go into the other bank and you put that money in there. That bank takes that $5 billion you put in there and it makes $4 point whatever billion right out of that bank. And that person walks in there and takes money out of that and puts that in another bank. So it keeps on going. And that's how they make their money. So you have to understand banking and you have to understand the banking system so that you can understand why it is we're in debt and how we will never be out of debt. There is no debt ceiling. A debt ceiling doesn't exist. A debt ceiling doesn't exist because there was never a room to start off with. How can you have a debt ceiling when you can print as much money as you want? How can you have a debt ceiling when they can keep making up more money as much as they want? They're making money out of thin air. While you and I have to sit back and just slave for the scraps. And every single time we do anything, they make money off of that. That's the monetary system. And it's all a lie.